Bueno, buenas tardes. Vamos a comenzar este panel que va a hablar sobre información sobre accesibilidad en plataformas online. Si me ponéis la presentación, por favor. Ya. Bien, las personas que me acompañan en el panel, que veo que no están todas, son Chloe, me vais a perdonar, pero soy incapaz de repetir los apellidos. Chloe, Kathrin, Sven, que nos ha abandonado, y Holger, ¿es? ¿Es? Holger, Dieterich. Bueno, imposible para mí decir estos apellidos. Lo tenéis en la pantalla. Bien. Yo voy a moderar, pero me vais a permitir que primero os cuente un poco de dónde procedo y qué es lo que hacemos nosotros. Yo soy profesora de la Universidad de Deusto. Es una universidad de los jesuitas y, como se ha mencionado antes en el auditorio, pues lo comento. Es una universidad de los jesuitas que está en Bilbao, en el norte de España. Y yo soy profesora del Departamento de Turismo y del Máster de Ocio de la Universidad. Bien, si pensamos en el ciclo del viaje como un ciclo que tiene tres fases, el pre, el durante y el post, la accesibilidad debería garantizarse en todas las fases del viaje para que la persona con discapacidad o con unas demandas especiales pueda tomar sus decisiones libremente en todo el momento. Sin embargo, como hemos podido ver además en casi todas las exposiciones que hemos visto, la mayoría de los esfuerzos que se realizan y la mayoría de las investigaciones que se realizan sobre eliminación de barreras y mejora de la accesibilidad se hacen en el destino, en el propio viaje. Y nosotros creemos que no solamente tenemos que hacerlo en el viaje, lo tenemos que hacer, es muy importante esa primera fase de toma de decisiones, no solamente la inspiración, la planificación, el poder comparar precios también, igualdad de oportunidades y sobre todo la fase de la reserva. Bien, siguiendo a la OMT, la fase previa, ese previaje, puede tener su foco en dos áreas. Por un lado, podemos hacer accesibles los sistemas de comunicación digital, es decir, lo que es la propia accesibilidad web, la accesibilidad de las aplicaciones móviles, la accesibilidad de los medios o incluso la accesibilidad de los dispositivos que utilizamos para buscar esa información. Pero también tenemos que hacer accesible el propio contenido. Es decir, el contenido que demos sobre la accesibilidad del destino es tan importante como la accesibilidad del propio dispositivo. Y ese contenido tiene que ser, entre otras cosas, adecuado, actualizado y de confianza, porque si no, no vamos a permitir a la demanda que tome decisiones en igualdad de oportunidades. Y es en esta parte en la que vamos a centrar la mayoría de los casos que vamos a exponer hoy. Y quería contarles que nosotros, en concreto, en la Universidad de Deusto, llevamos más de 30 años trabajando en temas de ocio, turismo y discapacidad. De hecho, tenemos una cátedra de ocio y discapacidad. Y llevamos unos años colaborando con las entidades públicas para hacer que Bilbao-Vizcaya, que es el destino en el que está nuestra universidad, sea un destino inteligente y, sobre todo, que sea un destino accesible. Y, entre otros proyectos, estamos acometiendo uno que es, queremos generar una solución tecnológica, que decimos solución tecnológica porque no sabemos muy bien a qué se va a referir, es una solución que tiene como objetivo empoderar a la demanda, es decir, que la demanda sea quien tome las decisiones de si un determinado destino, un determinado hotel, una actividad, un recurso, para esa persona es accesible o no, y que no lo decida el destino. Que el destino no me ponga un sello o me diga tal, que también, pero lo que nosotros queremos poner énfasis es en el empoderamiento de la demanda en la toma de decisiones. Entonces, lo primero que hemos hecho ha sido analizar cómo se presenta la información en la mayoría de las webs y de las páginas y de las aplicaciones móviles que hay sobre turismo accesible. Y durante diciembre del 2018 analizamos 147 páginas web y aplicaciones móviles. Y en general, bueno, hemos sacado muchas conclusiones, pero yo quería destacar aquí las más importantes. En muchos casos la información no es fiable, no está actualizada, se presenta en PDFs de forma estática, no es completa, no completa todas las discapacidades. Yo personalmente soy especialmente sensible a la discapacidad cognitiva e intelectual y es la que menos se recoge en la mayoría de los sitios. Seguramente, como han dicho en alguna intervención anterior, es porque es la menos visible. Depende mucho del buenismo y de las subvenciones, ¿no? Se recogen subvenciones, en un momento determinado se hace un análisis de la accesibilidad, pero se acaba la subvención y ya no se vuelve a actualizar esa información. Y para nosotros lo más importante, y pues lo hemos querido destacar, es la oferta quien califica la accesibilidad, ¿vale? Y no empodera la demanda en la mayoría de las ocasiones. Por eso lo que queremos hacer es esa solución tecnológica, que todavía no sabemos muy bien cómo va a ser. Yo no soy ingeniero y, por lo tanto, es algo además que a mí se me escapa, pero queremos convertir Bilbao-Vizcaya en un destino inteligente, que sea accesible, que se centre en el ciudadano, tanto en el ciudadano permanente como en el ciudadano temporal, por lo tanto, en visitantes y turistas, y que parta de él y de las interrelaciones del ciudadano con otros y con el entorno. Queremos un sistema que garantice la fiabilidad de la información y, en definitiva, lo que queremos es que los viajeros, que la demanda tome sus decisiones sobre los viajes con total confianza y de una forma autónoma, en igualdad de oportunidades y empoderarla. Vale, bueno, simplemente quería contarles lo que estamos haciendo, porque ya tengo muy poquito tiempo, porque en realidad los protagonistas son las personas que me acompañan, y vamos a dar paso a los 3 casos que nos van a contar, y vamos a comenzar con Chloe, que nos va a contar, ella es la desarrolladora de negocio de Picto Access, perdón, no llevo gafas y no veo bien, y ella nos va a contar y les dejo con ella. Nos cambiamos, que no funciona. ¿Tienes ahí, vale?
Sí. Buenas tardes. Hello, everybody. Thank you to the Congress to invite us and to enable me to be here today. Perfect, thank you. So I'm Chloé, I'm from Picto Access, which is a French startup based in Lille, in north of France. What we do is a software helping companies to manage the information about their accessibility. Our goal is to make the society more inclusive. How it works is knowing how to get to a place. I want to go to the cinema, I want to go to a museum. I need to know if I can get there and if I can access to the service. The idea is to give through 8 pictograms information about accessibility as complete as possible. Each pictogram represents a specific needs. In Europe, we say that half of the population have specific needs when to move, and their needs need to be answered. The 8 pictograms represent the people first with hearing impaired, deaf people, people with mentally problems, people in wheelchair, people like families with pushchairs or travelers with suitcases, because how to get to a place with 100 steps if you have a pushchair, it's much more difficult than when you're just on your feet. People having difficulties to walk, visually impaired people and blind people. How we inform is by giving a color to each of these pictograms. Green means that the place is fully accessible in full autonomy. Orange is a place where you can go, but you better go with a person with you. And red when it's not accessible for your specificity. The idea of an inclusive society is not having a tool specially designed for people with problems, with specific needs, because if you say they need a special tool, it means you'd stigmatize them. So pictograms goes directly on your website and Facebook page. The idea is to increase your touristic flows And you make your service and your welcoming much more interesting for the people and with much more quality. And you give your brand a very nice image because you say you're inclusive, you think about everybody, you're not only thinking about yourself. How it works? So for example, when I want to go somewhere, here to the Touristic Information Center of Lille, you go on Google and you just look for it. When you're on the Lille website, you go to see on the Touristic Information Center, and here you have the pictograms directly put it in 5 minutes in the website. And if you click, if you go you pass on each pictogram, you know what it means, and you know what the color means, and it can be read with the voiceover. And if you click, you get more information, a very complete information about the access, the environment. If I'm talking about a museum, I will have to a tab about the culture, because if I'm blind and I'm going to a museum but they don't have a tool for me, I'm going to a museum but I could go everywhere and it would change nothing. And you have pictures, because 60% of the people who are looking for information about accessibility look for pictures, and it's really rare you find them. It can also be implemented on Facebook as easily as you can put it on a website. You can also find, for example, here it's the Louvre, the museum. You can find on their Facebook page information like the photos of the Louvre, but you can also have a tab at the end. You can add a tab about accessibility where you have the same information. The idea is to give the to put the information wherever you may find, look for it. Our tool can be used for lots of things. We can work with the culture, like museums, cinemas, theaters. We can also work with events. At the moment, there are events in Lille, and I will explain later how we work. Sports and leisure, it's also a place, okay, you have sports people, but you also have the public. How do the public come to see your sport event? And about communication, accommodation, hotel, restaurants, I need to eat also when I'm in holiday. I need to go somewhere to sleep. And so I need to know if it's accessible for me. For example, in the culture area, we also work with La Villette in Paris. What they feel about our work is that it helps them manage and measure the impact of their investments on the feeling of their users and visitors, and it gives them a lot of help in answering the needs of their clients. Because thanks to Picto Access, they know what their clients needs, because they can also feedback. The people going there, they can also give their feeling, and in that way, the La Villette can talk with these people and say, okay, you felt that. How can we improve your experience? I said that I will talk about events. At the moment, in Lille, there's an event called Eldorado. It's an event based on several museums. What we did is that we already had given information on these museums on the website of Lille. And for Eldorado, they just took the code of the pictograms and put them on a page only about the event. We also come in support to governmental brands and labels. In France, we have Tourisme et Handicap, and Destination pour tous, which are brands managed by the government, and we can come in support to these brands. We also work with accommodation, as I said. We are a good partner of the Club Med in France. So as you can see, oh, sorry. Here I'm going to look for my holiday. I'm going to the Club Med. Okay, I would like to go to Arc Panorama. Why not? I'm going on their website and find information about my stay. and I will find a tab about accessibility in that place. If I click on the link, I will find some information, and you see that today, when I'm going on holiday, I often have information only about the room, but I'm not going in holiday only to stay in my room. Here with the Club Med, you can see that we have full information about leisure, if I can go to the swimming pool, to the restaurant, to the beach around it. I will know everything to know what I can access to when I'm going to holiday in that club. So here it is information. You can also click to have the information only about that place. If I want to go to that restaurant, I will have the information, but I can have the full information too. We are always improving. This summer we developed a new thing, is that when I look into Google, I found a small tab about where the address, the contact, and the idea is to find the pictograms directly on Google. We are now able to do it. The idea is to give always more information and more easily information. I don't want to be looking for information and to spend 10-15 minutes on the website looking for where is it hidden, because it's already difficult to find information. To make it easier and to give value to the information. So here it is.
Bueno, nos va a presentar ahora Kathrin el mapping que hacen de la accesibilidad en Noruega.
Hello, muchas gracias por invitarnos a Málaga. Pues voy a continuar en inglés. My Spanish is just too bad. I'm from the Norwegian Mapping Authority, together with my colleague Sven, is sitting there. The Norwegian Mapping Authority is a governmental body, a technical etat, it's called, that is advising the government, and we are responsible for all geographical data, all geodata in Norway, and for the property registry. And one of the databases we have and are responsible for is the one on accessibility data. The background of the project is that Norway gave itself an action plan to make Norway accessible by 2025. Probably not quite reaching that, but at least it is we have the political goal to do it, and also the political will is there, which is very important for funding and for making things happen. The first step of this of the process was, of course, to develop standards to define what accessibility actually means in a Norwegian context. We have the standard for universal design in outdoor areas, and we have a technical standard called the Building Technology Regulations. And that means that everything that is built in Norway since the moment these standards came in place in the beginning of 2000 has to follow that guidelines, unless you build, of course, your private house. But as soon as you would rent out or would build for selling, you have to follow the standard. So everything built new in Norway has to be accessible. The standards, they show very precisely how everything has to look. They give numbers or values for thresholds, for how a ramp has to look, what is the maximum slope you're allowed, how many parking spots have to be, where are the parking spots, how wide the door has to be. So all the things are defined in that standard. But then the next question was, of course, how do we see if we are making progress? How do we see what is happening? And then the conclusion was that we have to map the progress. So the first, that was, so the government commissioned Cartográfica to, the Norwegian Mapping Authority to do that, so we have to come up with a method. And since we're working on a national level for the whole of Norway, we wanted to have something simple and cost efficient. It had to be free, and everybody could be able to do it, and it had to rely on technical standards, and it had to be for not too many different groups, so we couldn't go too wide, so we decided for visually impaired people or blind and wheelchair users, because we saw that the technical requirements for wheelchairs and blind people are very strict, and they have also distinct requirements there that we can actually measure. And if you then look at the requirements for wheelchairs, if they are fulfilled, you also have a good standard for everyone that comes with crutches or with a trolley, with a kid's trolley. So they are really working very well as a key group. Where do we measure and what do we measure or map? We measure in urban areas and recreational areas, and we decided for a couple of objects that we felt was very representative and very common also. We don't measure something that exists only in 5 times in Norway, but we try to measure common things. And we measure now with an app that was developed for exactly that purpose. Our partners are the Ministry of Local Government and the Ministry of Children, Equality and Social Inclusion. They're the one that give the funding. Our partners are federal and municipal authorities and also organizations. They report their needs, get the fundings, and do carry out the mapping and also apply the data afterwards in their strategies and their planning processes. And of course, then it's us, the Norwegian mapping authorities. We are the project leaders. We're doing the project management. We own the database. We organize the data flow. And we're trying to find always better and new ways to improve the method, the standardization of the whole project, and also find new ways to make data accessible. Like as Chloe said, data has to be, or also Asunción, data has to be accessible. You don't want to look around very long. That is sometimes a little bit a problem with us people from the technical side, that we make really nice databases and then we are really annoyed if nobody uses our data. The status in the urban areas is that we covered a good part of Norway. It's 174 municipalities. It's quite a lot of objects and walkways, and the same for recreational areas. It's maybe a little bit like a Norwegian thing that actually more municipalities are interested in mapping their recreational data, where we actually think urban areas should be more the focus, but Norwegians are very focused on going out. What happens with the data? This is our data flow. What is interesting there, I think, for our method, to understand our method, is that we evaluate or evaluate all accessibility data automatically. So people just go out and measure. They measure the slopes, they measure the weights, they measure the threshold height, and then a query runs in the database and says, okay, this entrance is actually accessible. Not because people say it is accessible, but because the values show it. And that was very important for us because we want to actually compare these data. We want to compare town A and B. We want to compare town A in 2000 and town A in 2017. And that's why we have to take the human factor out of the mapping process. And then it goes into in a platform that's called GeoNorge. It's a very nice thing in Norway. Absolutely all geographical data, unless there are a problem with national security, are open. So you can download everything. You can download all the data, also including our data in different formats, VMS, WMS, WFS. You get status reports, the municipalities. They can also download the original data if they want to, and they even can download the model the app is based upon. So you can make your own app if you find ours too stupid, based on our more technical model. So everything lies out open. So what can you do with the data? So I want to give you some examples. When you, for example, let's look at a walkway. When you have mapped your walkway, you can check, is the surface of the walkway even? Is it wide enough to not only accommodate one wheelchair user, but also two? Is there a bench? Or is there enough benches? And is there lights? So that's all the questions you can ask afterwards and when you have mapped the data. And then you can, of course, make a plan. I want one town in Norway said we want a bench every 200 meters, so we can use our data to check if that's the case and how many benches do they still need to make that happen and where do they have to be. Also some other objects. You can map what kind of infrastructure do I have in my recreational area. Can a wheelchair user also use this table? Is the toilet accessible? So does it have light? Is it big enough? Do you get in? Do you also get out again? Is everyone getting in and out of the water? So is there ramps for the wheelchair users? Does the area have a handicap parking spot? And you can also use the data, and that is something we work very we work forward to, that the data also used as a base for planning in the municipalities. You could, for example, use when the municipalities want to build a new retirement home or a kindergarten, they want to say, I want to put it where the area is already accessible, where you maybe have an accessible playground. So then you would, you could use that for this location analysis. And of course, you can make statistics. And statistics are very smart and a good way to do if you want fundings. You can have numbers. You can say, I did this and this with your last fundings you gave me, and now I want to do this and this. What do we want to do in the future? What is our dreams a little bit? We want to look into crowdsourcing. Not so much we want to do it, but we want to work together with people that can do it. And we think that our data can be used to enrich crowdsourcing data, or that crowdsourcing data can enrich our data. Like, for example, these two, they could use our base data, which are more, some basic data that you can use in statistics, and then enrich it with data that people actually in the streets take. We want to use look at user-driven interfaces, because we think that is a little bit the way to go, because there's not one unique wheelchair user. So you can yourself put in, my wheelchair is managing 12 degrees raise. So then you get then you don't get only the objects that are accessible according to the standard, but you get all the objects that are accessible according to your user-driven standards. And we would like to make our and everybody's mappers' life a little bit easier by automatically extract features, like the threshold of a pavement, of a sidewalk, or the slope from laser data. That would, of course, make the whole mapping effort extremely much easier and faster, so we could gather a lot of data in a very fast time. So what do we want to, what do we aim at, where do we want to go? So we have all the data, they are on your computer, they are lie in databases, you can get them on a map. And then we want that people come together from all these different divisions, because accessibility is is a topic that touches so many other topics. And we want them to brainstorm. And then we want that these data are being used in planning, that you, as we also often heard on this conference, that accessibility has to be a part not only in afterwards coming in and fixing things, but in a basic planning process in everything you do already. And then they should be acting on it, the people, the municipalities, or also the private builders, and then should fix things, or they will build it already in a way that it is accessible to begin with. And then, of course, you have to map again. And then it all starts, so you'll never be finished. So that was it from us. I thank you for your attention, and happy to.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Muy interesante la presentación. Mientras va poniendo la siguiente. Ya está. Bueno, dejamos para el final las preguntas entonces.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name is Holger. I don't speak Spanish, but I try to speak slow English. Otherwise, hold your hand up if I'm not good to understand. Sozialhelden means in English social heroes, so pun intended. The idea is that everybody can do something good. That was the idea. We are a non-profit organization based in Berlin, Germany, and this is a group photo of our team, what you see on the slides. I am here to tell you, to start with a little story. Here in this picture you see Raul. He's a very good friend of mine and my co-founder. on Wheelmap, what I'm going to talk about. On the picture you see that he's using an electric wheelchair and into one platform. And we have 79 partners now who contribute another 1 million places to the whole data set. These are partners like Foursquare or Here, so large organizations, large commercial organizations, but also open data, open government sources, but also non-profit organizations like AccessMap from the United States, or JACSET from France, or Wojciech Map from the Czech Republic, you name it. So what is the problem actually we are solving? So 2 million places, and they were there before, so at least the other 1 million, but they were you couldn't get them because everybody did it differently. Here's an example. So you see here, think of a toilet, as you can say it in Great Britain. In the United States, it's called restroom. In Canada, it's called bathroom, but it's actually the same thing. So there is something, how can we convey the meaning of the things we describe in a machine-readable way so that a computer can understand it, that an algorithm can understand it. And if everybody does it differently, it's lost, basically. So Accessibility Cloud fixes this because we go into each data set and make it into one universal format. Here's an example on what a restroom description could look like. So it's just a technical description of the objective information which is there, like is there a handrail or is there no handrail, or is the door automatic or is it not automatic, these kinds of things. And also we're providing a computer interface for this so that software developers can access this data, at least if it's an open data, or if the companies have given permission to do this, so it's up to them to share. But if it's connected to the platform, it's very easy to get all the 2 million data sets if you have these partnerships. So I haven't talked so much about travel, but we have a project around this as well. One last slide for this. Because I've all talked about wheelchair accessibility only for what Wheelmap is doing and where we come from. But all the partners have much more information, and we're also including this into Accessibility Cloud to display this. And we want to eventually bring this to a standard, to a common format, and we start with the travel industry. We did a partnership with Booking.com, with a large online booking platform. And with their help, we are working on the standards and making more events around this, and also we do campaigns for outreach for people in the tourism industry to do this. So we have a campaign right now. So if you're in the tourism industry and you want to help, take a photo of this QR code. It leads you to news.wheelmap.org/en/travelable. This is just a landing page with a form where you can say how you want to contribute. You can map places in your neighborhood. You can hold your own events. You can get funny hats if you want. You can give more information about the hotel you run on your own. So I think the easiest is to go to this website. So today I talked about 3 things to summarize: wheelmap.org, the map to find wheelchair accessible places, which led to accessibility.cloud, which is hopefully eventually the place to find all information in the world about the physical accessibility. And lastly, TravelAble, the campaign what we are doing right now around this. So I will be here. I'll wear the silly hat maybe for the rest of the day if you want to find me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions and to your comments. Thank you.
Creo que las 3 intervenciones han sido realmente interesantes. No sé si en el público hay alguien que quiera hacerles una pregunta. Yo creo que a mí se me han quedado muchas en el tintero. Pero aprovechamos. ¿Nadie? ¿Sí? Sorry. en el idioma más
English,
cómodo.
in French, in Spanish. Well, to Chloe. Spanish. Sí, bueno. Entonces, Chloe, ¿cómo tú recoges la información para tu app?
Voy a hablar en inglés porque no está bien en español. How we take the information? You hear me? How we get the information? In fact, there are two ways to do it. We have an app tool. We can do it ourselves, going to the place. If it's, for example, we'll take a museum. We have to do El Museum del Prado. We have two possibilities. We come and answer the questionnaire on our tool to make the information, and then we have the colors for the pictograms. We take the pictures, and our team creates the page and gives the code to put the pictograms and explains the webmaster how to put it on your website. Or the second possibility is we teach some people in your company in the museum or in the city, if it's the city that asks us to do the museum. We come and teach them how to answer the question, how to make good pictures, what's the important points to see, to check when you're doing the questionnaire. With an access we give them to our tool, and then they send us, once they did the diagnosis, we get the feedback. We create the page in the same way with the pictograms, and it's how it works. Yeah, but you also have the possibilities. The people, the users, can also give their information by creating just signing in, like with Facebook or with email address. They can say, for example, if I'm in a wheelchair, or if in my personal life, my grandmother is blind. So I know how it happens, how it works when I'm going somewhere with her, what she needs to feel well. So I can also take the pictogram and give the color I think it's corresponding when I'm visiting a place. Does it answer your question?
Yes, I could do more.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I would just want to know, with regard to the accessibility of the content that you are putting in your website or in your application. So how do you address this part? So, for instance, person with visual disabilities, if they can access with screen readers or whatever. And I would like to know which are your, let's say, accessibility tools in terms of the structure of the website that you mentioned, and as well as the content that you are putting.
You're asking me?
Well, I think
Anybody?
both of you perhaps
Okay.
can answer.
So so we came from wheelchair disabilities. We have now many people like from our team have different disabilities, so we are learning. So we improved keyboard navigation for our map, which is not so easy to do with map view, color contrast, these kind of things. But for blind users, I think what we need is more like a list view, because a map is too overwhelming to navigate through, to get the context, and we're planning this for next year. So, but on the other hand, like, we have an API, it's a data, so there are people who are building Facebook chatbots or Telegram bots with our data. So there are other people working on solutions, and everybody's welcome to do this as well. Willmap is not the only way to use this data.
For Picto Access, when you, on websites, it's the company who decides where they want to put the pictograms on their website. On Facebook, it's always in an accessibility tab. And what we recommend to our customers, to the companies we work with, is putting the information where you can find the address of the place, the contact number, And in order to make it accessible online for everybody, for blind and visually impaired people, what we do is that when you go over the pictogram, you will have some text saying what it means and what the color means, what's the color for people who don't see colors. And because it's text, it can also be read by voiceover if you're blind. So yeah, I don't know if it answers. Yeah.
Our data are maybe a little bit different because we are not mapping primarily for the public, but we are mapping for administrations, for statistics, for using the data as base data in municipal planning. But we have a little bit the same approach, what Holger said, that we think our data are open. So we invite everyone that wants to develop something based on our data to just use it. But this is not the government's, our mission as a governmental body is not to produce end-user solutions. We are not making money. So we are also a non-profit organization in a way. I have a question. I have a question to to Holger mostly, because we are struggling a little bit. What do you do with places that's not there anymore? How do you keep your data updated that you don't end up with a huge amount of places like Berlin? I'm from Berlin myself, so I know that there's many cafes that don't exist longer than a year, and then there's a new one there.
So two things. So one, you can report on Wheelmap directly if something is incorrect, and then we look at it. But since the base layer data, like is there a coffee shop or not, is based on OpenStreetMap, at least what we are doing. OpenStreetMap has more than 1 million users who are avid users of geodata nerds basically. So it's very rare that I speak at such a conference. I'm usually at tech conferences, and it's good to have a lot of people around the world who are literally like watching their neighborhood and cleaning up data. And that's the beauty, because it's like Wikipedia for the world map, and it's good to have this. So we could never review all closed shops around the world if it was not for a large community.
¿Alguna pregunta más? Bien, pues sí, yo tengo unas cuantas, pero quizá la que afecta a todos es, yo lo que he visto son 3 casos, he hablado con algunas de las personas que están en el público y algún otro caso práctico, alguna buena práctica también de cómo mostrar la información. Todos tenemos preocupación por mostrar la información a los diferentes agentes que van a hacer uso de ella. Y quizá lo interesante sería, y no sé, se me ocurre, crear un grupo, ¿no? Aprovechando que estamos en este congreso, un grupo en el que intervengamos todos, que genere una especie de cuadro de mando que sea interesante para la gobernanza y la planificación, para las estadísticas, para las empresas, que de aquí no se ha hablado, pero por lo menos en la legislación española las agencias de viaje tienen obligación de informar de la accesibilidad y no tienen datos para hablar de accesibilidad porque no tienen fuentes para buscarlos, fuentes fiables, ¿no? O que sean interesantes para la demanda. En todo caso, ¿no os parece que lo primero que tendríamos que hacer o lo primero que hay que hacer es llegar a un consenso internacional sobre pictogramas, sobre estándares de accesibilidad, sobre qué se entiende por accesibilidad en todos los sitios? ¿No? Sí.
Okay, so we took the opposite way. So we started with a coffee shop around the corner, and now are working towards a standard. So, but what I didn't mention, the data is already being used to learn about the world. For example, I had the honor to help with writing a report for the United Nations. So they did December last year, the first ever report on people with disabilities. And they created maps of different regions of the world and used the data from Accessibility Cloud to get another perspective on the status. So beyond what these nations are reporting to the United Nations, there are also citizens who are doing things, who are taking photos, who are tweeting, who are doing other things, who are mapping on Wheelmap or on all the others. And the United Nations wanted to also include this kind of data. So this is not, a survey analysis, but this is also some interesting signal of what work is still there to be done. And what we working on more with what we mean with the standard is more like an exchange format to say, we have this data set. If we in Germany, for example, what would happen if we would apply the French standard to this? Or the standard in Israel to this. So this is what you can do if you semantically correctly describe the data which is out there. So we see it more like helping people creating standards and assessing standards. So I'm happy to be part of the conversation of all this.
Sí, está claro, tiene que salir de la demanda. Las personas con discapacidad son las que tienen voz y voto para decir los estándares, ¿no? Para determinados estándares. Bueno, yo creo que me parece muy interesante. Él tiene la gorra, los demás no, pero podemos seguir la conversación fuera. Se nos acaba el tiempo y, bueno, aunque nos gustaría seguir hablando del tema, tenemos que dejarlo aquí. Muchas gracias a todos y gracias a los tres por contarnos vuestras buenas prácticas. Gracias.